Don't get me wrong, this is also true. They were all excellent cavers in the 1940 to 48 period. But this is 56 and 57, not 48 and 50. They were all established, but had become armchair cavers by then. Okay, to sum this up a little bit here, these are the projects. Anybody know where the Baldwin Hill project was? About 3 miles south of Front Royal. I understand that from Tom told me there's a housing development there now. And we had, in fact, I think go ahead one more. I think I had no, go back one. I'll tell you about that in a minute. We did the Baldwin Hill project. Marguerite Klein of D.C. Grotto was in charge of the Warren County Cave Survey for Henry Douglas's book, which came out a few years later. We had the Germany Valley Cave Survey, which we helped. Pittsburgh Grotto was in charge of that. We helped with that. We explored and mapped and did a lot of things in Rogers Belmont Cave, which probably none of you, anybody been in Rogers Belmont?
Front Royal's taking that over.
Well, Rogers Belmont just, I was probably on the last trip to trying to dig that back open because the owner filled the entrance, and then a new owner took over, and they said we could dig it open and go in it again. But while we were digging it open, somebody else bought it, and so it's all
I know
under
there was
there.
one purchase. I didn't know there was two.
It's still the biggest cave in Warren County. But we just can't get back.
Rogers Belmont Cave was great. I think I have another picture or two coming up pretty soon of inside Rogers Belmont. It was very nice. We had a red waterfall of sorts, so forth in there. We did a lot of rock climbing and vertical training, but in spite of the fact that I had met Bill Cuddington in 1955, and many of you know who Vertical Bill is, we didn't really adopt his single rope technique right away, because we were ladder, in our case, the wire ladders. We even used some wooden rung ladders occasionally, and a few people learned Prusikine. But in this period, you didn't do much of that. And Pittsburgh Grotto Fieldhouse, we got in 1956, I believe, on one of these, on the one way back behind my brother over there, is a copy of the original deed. And many of you knew Nellie Smith, Mrs. Smith, who used to cook breakfast for us, and maybe she did for y'all too. Mrs. Smith's signature is on that, and that's not the original one we had in '56, but it was our renewal, because we had to renew it every year. What happened, the people that took over that property in '55 both passed away. Nellie Smith's husband and one of the Lamberts, I believe, Estelle Lambert was the cave manager at the time, but I think it was one of the Lamberts was also a co-owner. Both of them had passed away by 1960, and Nellie Smith and her relatives, who are all relatives of all the rest, came in, and we had to renew the lease every year. Go ahead. This is the cave truck that we used back in the late 50s, mid to late 50s. It was owned by a gentleman from Pittsburgh who never lived in Pittsburgh, maybe a month every year. He was a merchant marine, and he'd come back 2 months out of the year and spend 1 month in Pittsburgh and 1 month somewhere else. He even married somebody from Pittsburgh, but they saw each other once a year. But it was damaged. This is Baldwin Hill. You can see what our problem was. That's about 400 feet right there. There's a fence line, a trail. That's north. The problem is, let's see, this is in the Speleo Digest from one of those early years. The final report of the project I wrote, though, a number of years later. The problem was we had caves and what I called cavelets. Cavelets were 15 or 20 feet long, caves nevertheless. They're solutional, more or less. But some of the bigger ones were 250 to 300 feet. Barbara Mock Cave. Barbara married, it was one of the major caves up there. Barbara married chart member number 8. She's the one that lives in Australia now. Minerva Rose Bailey, her real name is, that's a real name. Her name is Judy Bailey. She was the second wife of Byron Castle, who was member number 5 of the PSC. And she was member number 20-something, I believe. The project here started in 1939 when Baldwin's Cave number 1 and 2 were mapped by the Speleological Society of the District of Columbia, which is a forerunner of the National Speleological Society. Go ahead. Well, Baldwin number 1 was mapped, number 2 was mapped. I guess number 3, Pool Pit, was also mapped, but this is in 1939. The people in 1939 did not look at any of the others. Minerva Rose Bailey Cave was probably one of the major caves up there, but they hadn't located that one at the time, evidently. I forget. Just a minute. Oh, this is Rogers Belmont parking lot. I'm going to show a couple pictures of Rogers Belmont Cave in a minute. That's me coming out of Rogers Belmont Cave. I don't know, who said they're digging, you said they're digging it open?
Well, we were.
Is there any formation or shape that you recognize there? I'm climbing a wooden ladder from looks of it out of there.
I believe that's where we were going back down in. It's got a lot of fill.
The project that we had recently at the other side of the hill in the forest land,
Yeah.
you gave that up because you couldn't get a connection?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
You mean on the Shenandoah National Park property?
okay.
And
Yeah.
also the landowner didn't like us being there.
Yeah. Okay, that's Hope Wyrick, who is, you have another name for her, Hope Suey or Sue or something. She must have married after this picture, but Hope was one of the early female members of the group. And that's the red waterfall I was talking about in Rogers Belmont. Probably none of you, did some of you say you'd been in Rogers Belmont?
No, we haven't been able to
None
get
of
back
you,
in.
okay. This is one of the features of Rogers Belmont. One more. That's Hope also in showing some of the formations in there. It's a very nice cave, a good beginner's cave, other than it's got a, I don't know how many foot drop it is, I don't remember anymore. Go ahead. That's me in a tree on the Rogers Belmont property next to the parking lot. We didn't have any way of learning crucics. We didn't have any vertical training. We had to do our own training. Bill Cunnington gave us a lot of tips of single rope technique, but he didn't live in our area here. He was from Roanoke at the time, in Alabama now. This is either Carter Rock or Great Falls, or is that the same? I don't remember. Probably Carter Rock.
Carter Rock is down from Great Falls, yeah.
Okay, this is probably Carter Rock because that's where I did. There's a big. Where'd they have the big belaying dummy?
I don't know.
About 60 foot.
It was we had a big belaying dummy that the PATC put in at the base of the hill, and we did a lot of training I have pictures somewhere, I couldn't find them to put one in, of a person being pulled up, trying to stop the belay dummy from getting killed before it hit the ground. Go ahead. That, I believe, is Bill Cunnington at Natural Bridge, Virginia. One door. That is also Bill Cunnington rappelling off the top of Natural Bridge. Can you do that anymore? Or I mean, we were able to do a lot of things. I read your closed cave list on your Virginia Region the other day, on your Virginia Region website, and all the caves we caved in are closed. I don't know what you guys have done to the situation, but it wasn't us, I don't think.
The Highland County Survey is now reworking and mapping the caves around the natural chimneys in the last couple months.
Okay, I noticed that some of the other pictures you had but these are much earlier. These are probably taken in 1956, maybe 57. But what was Pittsburgh Grotto Fieldhouse, my fieldhouse at the time. Nowadays, then it became the PSC Fieldhouse. That's the front. That's the back. And you'll recognize the next picture. That was behind the building, behind the back. That was the facilities. Men's or women, I don't know. Men/women, I don't know what it was. Are there any more? That's it. Do y'all think I said enough about the reasons why we formed the PSC? And I hated the people, not personal one-on-one, but the group of, well, hate is a strong word, but I didn't believe that they were there for us. Any comments?
Yeah, Paul.
I'm a little hard of hearing.
Yeah, Barry Shute, well, another member of ours who passed away recently, used to take great delight in taking our PSC flag to the NSS convention and getting it front and center at the stage where they would have the award ceremonies. And because after all, you know, the NSS said we couldn't be a grotto, we couldn't be an affiliate, so we just finally said, okay, never mind.
I don't know whether some of you noticed, but I have a few pictures. Chip Clark, is that his name?
Yes.
Was a longtime member of your group, National Geographical Society photographer, and he took some of the pictures that I have on display here or there, if you notice closely.
I was going to say some years ago when NSS kind of said we couldn't join them, PSC at a board meeting voted to make the NSS an affiliate of the PSC. So they're really now just, you know, a secondary member of the larger PSC.
How many people here are NSS members? Anybody not NSS member, other than a family member? Oh, I was hoping to find some more, maybe more people to join your club. I've noticed in your membership list that in the last 6 or 7 years, not too many people have joined this young lady over here in joining the PSC. Most everybody who's in the PSC is at least 2010 and earlier.
I think that PSC and a lot of the caving clubs that I belong to are in this general vicinity. It's my own personal feeling that they do welcome new people, you know, and we try and take Boy Scouts caving. And of the people we take caving, I would say that most of them don't, you know, you either really like it or you really don't like it. So we get a few people that continue on with it. But I would say that most of the local caving clubs, in my view, are accepting and pleasant and try and get new members and try and sort of guide them.
That's certainly what Gary Schindel, current president of the NSS, told me we should make sure we do. In Pittsburgh, they have a club Last year in 2017, there were no officers, no at-large, no officers, no meetings, no newsletter. 2018, we now have officers, but no meeting, no newsletter. I mean, everything Gary told me we should be doing, you have to have some activity before you could do it.
I would say Bats Grotto has a new caver orientation to become a member. So
Where are
they
where-
do provide training.
Where are they from?
Northern Virginia. Any bats here? No? So you know,
Yeah,
you have to do it.
yeah, yeah. If you want to go on your trip, you
You
have
have
to get
to.
the orientation.
So there is.
What Tom Tucker told me was that he was a high school student, only a sophomore, I think, at the time, in about 1956, and he heard about caving and wrote to the NSS, and wrote to Bill Stevenson, actually, of the NSS, who was the most active caver and one of the more nice of the old timers. And Bill said, "We can't help you and take you on a trip until you learn vertical work. Go to the PATC and meet," I think it was Ted Shad, who was a member of both groups. And if they say thumbs up, you can go on a cave trip with us. So it was thumbs up. He did a lot of vertical training. But where did they go? They went to Breathing Cave. Now, I've never been to Breathing Cave, but I don't think it's vertical.
No, it's not.
And I don't understand what was going on in the mid to late 50s in this area.
Terrapin Trail Club at the University of Maryland was basically a big feedstock. When I came down from New Hampshire to join PSC.
Are you Miles?
I'm Miles.
Yeah, okay.
And I joined the Terrapin Trail Club and got them out caving.
Mhm.
This is back in 76, 77. Didn't take very long to get that club into shape. We started bringing people on foreign expeditions. I have not been able to go to Terrapin Trail Club for many years because I had a job that forced me to work nights, so I missed every single meeting, so it just never happened. Well, I'm back. I retired, and I've been to every single Trail Club meeting since I retired. And I've gotten them caving. I took a group of 5 beyond the Airboard and Hamilton Cave, which is caving with a capital C. Got them all the way into the ballroom, and they said, "Yeah, bring it." They are ready. I got another caving associate who wants to get them trained vertically with bats. They have a College Park training session, apparently once a month. which I'm just finding
Kurt.
out about.
Kurt
Anybody know
Waldron.
about that?
Kurt Waldron.
Oh, Kurt Waldron, yes. And he's ready to take on Terrapin Trail Club, teach you how to do vertical.
Well, how's the
We
DC
are
Grotto
back,
fit into
and
this?
I'm gonna feed him to this club. I already had 2 people ask me about joining this.
Well, how's the DC Grotto fit in? Are
I
they
think
much of a club right
DC
now?
Grotto and Bats get along quite well.
They do, they actually.
All three.
they
Yeah,
actually-
and PSA.
Well, they go to REI, or not REI, like, the local climbing gyms, and they'll set up tables and recruit people once a month at the local climbing.
Yeah, there's been a
gyms.
lot of collaboration, especially in the past 2 or 3 years.
And it wasn't always the case because
No.
we had conflict back in the 50s. I went through some of the early members manuals from late 40s to the 1960s, and I couldn't find specifically anything prohibiting American caving clubs being affiliates of the NSS. I couldn't find anything specific about one grotto in any geographical area, so I had to feel there was a DC grotto that was saying this to us, but it wasn't true.
By the 1990s, anybody who, a lot of people who belonged to multiple groups. They belonged both to DC Grotto and PSC, or Baltimore Grotto and PSC. They were just looking you know, to belong to groups and go out and go caving all the time.
Yeah.
And we had to coordinate the Christmas party so you could go to all three.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah, they had the Christmas parties on 3 different weekends, so you
Oh,
can go to
okay.
all of them.
That's why
And you
this
have-
thing is in,
So you're all working together and it's pretty,
Yes.
Yeah, you have also grottos that were further out that kept feeding people back. Like a VPI grotto in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of the students were from this area, and they went to school, and they had a training program down there that they'd come back for summers or stuff like this, and they would join the local groups up here too. So
well, I'm glad to hear some of the things that y'all are saying, but it was not true as far as I was concerned, at least, in the 50s. And it was very easy to convince. Jerry Nichols had the same idea I had, basically, and we combined our ideas and formed a new club. I was the only one, however, who had been a caver for 3 or 4 years prior to this situation. I had been to NSS conventions, I had been to OTRs, none of the other 8 had been.
Great, go ahead, big round of.
So you have a book for sale too?
Pardon me?
You have a book for sale?
Oh, yes. I have a book. My claim to fame in the cave world is 2 big books I have written and prepared. One was in 1991, which was the first 50 years of the NSS history. This one that is sitting over on the table here, several copies, one of which I've already sold tonight, $25 a piece. The money goes directly to the NSS, although it's got to kind of go through me, because I'm the one that bought them from the NSS, and I'm trying to sell them. And then once I get money, I'll buy more. But
So you can autograph it?
Will you sign?
well, for you, Gordon, yes. I just did. No. I just did sign. I just did his sign his copy.
No?
I didn't really say what the name of that is. That's the Diamond Jubilee of the NSS, 75-year history. And by the way, the 1991 history and the 2016 history do not overlap. A couple photos are the same in both. But one is details of various parts of the NSS and details of committees. This is more of a picture book. And I am a big collector of photographs, not slides. I also went through the NSS photo archives to get some material. Photo archives, by the way, are lousy, as far as I was concerned. The NSS and the management of them right now doesn't really know what they have. They pretend they do. Well, I'm bitter, but yet I'm a member of everything.
Thank you
It's hard
very
to
much.
tell.
Thank you.
thank you, Paul.